The 16 games that Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving and James Harden played together were special, having the best offensive rating as a super team that was expected to make a finals run. Unfortunately, injuries and drama caused the Brooklyn Nets to slowly go from the best big three in the league to having the biggest super team failure in NBA history. A super team is when multiple NBA stars join one team through free agency or trade. The exact qualifications that make a super team can be different depending on who you ask, but generally, I'd consider a super team to be when at least 3 players are one of the best at their position. A great example of this is the Golden State Avengers. They had Steph Curry, one of the greatest point guards ever, Kevin Durant, who was the second best forward of his time, and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green were both incredible at their positions and roles, not to mention many other incredible players. There have been many other super teams formed. Some have had success and some haven't. Today we are going to look at one of the worst super teams ever created, the Brooklyn Nets. Trading the draft picks that became Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to create what they believed to be a title contender with the incredibly aged trio of Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce and Jason Terry ended up as a terrible move. This team of declining stars only made it as far as the second round of the 2014 NBA playoffs before the major pieces of their roster had all left. This was when the Nets brought in Sean Marks, a former NBA champion for the San Antonio Spurs, as their general manager. Sean Marks made a massive difference almost immediately. After picking up unwanted young players with major potential, such as D'Angelo Russell, Jarrett Allen and Joe Harris, Brooklyn was back in the playoffs in 2019. Though they were eliminated by Philly in the first round, this only increased the value in D'Angelo Russell, who was already an all-star. The next season, the Nets were ready to go all in and make a few moves to become a win-now team, showing interest in both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. KD's contract in Golden State was expiring, and though he was expected to be out for the entire year, the Nets made a sign-and-trade deal, trading D'Angelo Russell. This created enough cap space to not just have KD on the roster, but also sign Kyrie Irving. That year, the 2019-20 NBA season, Kyrie played just 20 games, and the Nets were swept by the Toronto Raptors early in the playoffs. Despite this early exit, there was massive hope for the future of the team. That offseason, they made one last move in hiring Steve Nash as their new coach. The Nets were now the favourites to be the 2021 NBA champions. With a healthy Kyrie and KD, early in the season, Sean Marks had to make another major move. After Kyrie's constant battle with injuries and backup point guard Spencer Dinwiddie out for the season with a torn ACL, Brooklyn sent a massive package over to Houston for James Harden. Jarrett Allen, Caris LeVert, Taurean Prince, Rodion Skirks, 3 first-round picks and 4 pick swaps was the price for James Harden. They now had a major big three on their roster and were far less impacted by injuries, as they could always play with at least one superstar on the court. This soon became the greatest offense the NBA has ever seen. When all 3 stars were on the court, they were unstoppable. Unfortunately, there was only 8 games that this big three played together throughout the entire regular season. In the playoffs, they were the second seed in the East. They averaged a combined 85 points per game throughout the 5 games played against Boston in the first round. They now faced the Milwaukee Bucks in the East semi-finals. After less than a single minute played in the first game of the series, Harden pulled a hamstring, missing the next 4 games. Later in the series, just before he was set to return, Kyrie Irving sprained his ankle as the Nets were up 2-1. Being ruled out for the series and with Harden not back just yet, it was all up to KD, who clearly performed well under this pressure, dropping a huge 49 points, 17 rebounds and 10 assists in Game 5, putting the series at 3-2. With Harden now back, it was clear he wasn't fully healthy, with the Bucks taking Game 6. Now in Game 7, there was just a few seconds left in the entire series, and the Nets were down 2 points, but Kevin Durant shot a game-winning 3.
He turns, he shoots, yes! With 1 second remaining!
This was possibly one of the greatest shots in NBA history, but after a quick review, his foot was clearly on the line, tying the score and sending the game into overtime, where the Bucks would prevail. Even with this heartbreaking loss, the Nets had a lot of potential, just needing to stay healthy and gain more experience together as a team. But the next year, injuries were a much smaller issue. The defense has struggled, and Kyrie's stance on the vaccination policy that prevented him from playing any games in New York seemed to impact this season, yet they still held the third seed. James Harden had off-court drama of his own, as he had an issue with Kyrie being unable to make a sacrifice for the team and just get vaccinated.
Kyrie believes in his beliefs, and he stands firm and strong on that. And for us, we respect it. Individually, myself, I'm still, wanting to set myself up for a championship.
Publicly asking for a trade. Soon before the playoffs, the vaccination requirement was lifted, allowing Kyrie back onto the permanent roster. James Harden was still set on leaving though, being traded to the 76ers for Ben Simmons, Steph Curry, and 2 first-round picks. It was now the playoffs, but with little time to adjust to each other after this trade, and inconsistencies around Ben Simmons, the Nets were swept by the Celtics in the first round. The next year was no different. With a terrible start to the season, they still had off-court problems. In the previous offseason, KD demanded that the Nets owner fired both Steve Nash and Sean Marks or traded him away. The owner denied this, though Steve Nash was fired later on due to terrible performance. This ended up being the least of their worries, however, as Kyrie Irving caused more issues after tweeting an anti-Semitic post and refusing to apologize. Following this, he was in his last year of his contract. Kyrie wanted a long-term extension, but Sean Marks wasn't willing to give this to him, as he was pretty much a loose cannon in press conferences. Not getting this extension, Kyrie requested a trade to the Dallas Mavericks, KD soon following to the Phoenix Suns. This officially ended the Nets super team, with no championships, no awards, and never making it past the second round.